What's up, you guys? It's Simon. Welcome back to my channel. So Inktober is finally over. I'm sure anybody who's participated in any amount at all, even if it was just like 3 days, is probably exhausted of both hearing about and working on Inktober. So I just wanted to, I guess, put together a compilation of all of the little Inktober illustrations that we made for anybody that might have missed a video or missed an illustration within a video, or is maybe new to my channel and doesn't feel like going through an entire 12 Inktober videos. So definitely, it's probably more than 12 because we did 7 the first week was 1 video per day, and then every 3 days after that, so it's probably closer to maybe like 14-ish videos. So definitely that's a lot to go through, so I thought I'd just put them all into one little video. I'm going to try to do my best to remember the prompts for each of these illustrations and sort of talk a little bit about why I decided to go the way that I did, and just the little things I liked or did not like about the illustration. But hopefully it won't be too long. If this video is like an hour like my Copic tutorial was, I'm so sorry, but you guys do tend to enjoy longer videos, so to prevent it from being longer than it needs to be, I'm just gonna get straight into it. So this is obviously day 1 of Inktober, and I believe that the prompts were like home and autumn, if I'm not mistaken. So I just tried to combine sort of what I thought made up both home and autumn. For each illustration, I kind of like broke it down. And there's a ton of posts on Patreon of all the behind the scenes of how I sort of like nitpicked each and everything about the prompt and then landed on what I did. But basically I just tried to tell myself, you know, what makes up a home. I did like a house illustration, it didn't like it, and I landed on this one, which was just like a bedroom. And then I decided to go, okay, so what number 1 makes it homey and number 2 makes it autumn. So I put a couple little autumn based decorations, like color scheme wise, as well as like the little ghosty, some soup that was intended to be potato soup, but it came out a lot greener than I had anticipated. It's such a small part on this illustration, so you guys might not be able to tell, but in person it is incredibly green. And then you know, the fall y'all thing on, I really love those like letterboard things. I have one myself, so I thought it would be really fun to include one here. And then of course just a little pumpkin painting. One of the things I did not like about this illustration at first when I did it was the color scheme. I thought it was pretty rushed and like thrown together, but now that it's been genuinely a month since I've really seen it, every time I look at it I'm like, it's not that bad. Like, the colors are okay, they read as autumn, they don't read as messy as when I think I was illustrating it at first, and that's because I had my initial color scheme so stuck in my head that I don't think I could have looked past it and then appreciated this for what it came out to be. So I definitely like this one a lot more than when I first made it, and I think it came out pretty cool. I really liked all the washes on the watercolor, and it was just pretty simple and relaxing to do. So there is day 1. And this next one we have is day 2. I believe the prompts were Witch Sona and Raccoon, and this one was a bit of a struggle for me. If you haven't already seen the video, I had to film it twice because the first time I filmed it, it stopped recording and I didn't notice. So I finished filming and then I looked up and the screen was black, and I realized that all that footage was gone. I didn't even finish her skin, so I definitely had to go back and refilm it. So it was very aggravating because, again, I finished the illustration, it was done, and I had to do it again. So that was really pretty aggravating. And the raccoon as well was also kind of a struggle for me, just because I've said this a million times on my channel now, animals can do them realistically, but stylizing them, way hard. I'm still learning that. I'm trying to take some Skillshare courses to learn, I guess, a little bit about stylizing them. But definitely looking to improve on that in the future, because you can tell this little guy is a little bit stupid looking, but that's okay. Other than that, I do pretty much like how this illustration turned out. I really like the colors. My husband actually picked them out for me, and they're just so smooth. Like I have a bit of an issue throughout Inktober of getting colors to lay down flat and nicely, and I did not have that issue with this particular illustration. Everything went down super, like, creamy is not the right word, but like juicy sounds strange, but like it went down pretty juicy, pretty flat, well toned, I guess. So I really like how this one turned out, but it did throw off my groove, which made day 3 so much harder. So here is day 3. The prompts were teacup and bridge, and eventually I landed on the idea, rather than doing something with like crazy perspective and like a bridge and all that, I would just use the teacup as the bridge and then create like some sort of like small fairy type character who would be able to, of course, fit both on a teacup and be able to use a teacup as a bridge. So I have this character here, and it just wasn't really coming out how I wanted. I didn't really like the line art because it, again, is in profile, and profiles are hard for me, just like they're hard for everyone. I'm still trying to improve on that front as well, but Inktober is meant to be a challenge, so of course I was trying to push myself to do something that I would not normally do. Speaking of things I don't normally do, perspective and watercolor, and that has all three of my weaknesses. What? Profiles, watercolor, backgrounds, and perspective is all in this piece. And then when you have to combine it with the fact that I was doing them day 1, 2, and 3, I did all on the same day. So of course you guys know I had to do day 2 twice, which meant that I was not in the best mood when I had to work on day 3. So everything just sort of turned out, I guess, wrong, you could say. My husband thinks that it's a really nice piece. However, I am biased against it just because I know the state of mind I was when I was working on it, and I know that I could have done better and didn't because of, again, the state of what I was working on it with. But there are things I like about it. I really like the moss that I did here, and then like kind of the ripples and the waves. I kind of overdid it by trying to add some Copics in because this initially was all watercolor, but I felt like her skin was not standing out enough, so I went back in with some Copic markers, and of course those really stood out, so I had to add them in other places as well. But yeah, overall I just think it's kind of an awkward piece. There's shading in some places and not in others. There's like, you know, the places where the watercolor kind of tore up the paper or like didn't blend properly, like in her hair. So overall it's just kind of a mess. And I liked the idea, I just wish I could have executed it a little bit better. So here is day 4, and day 4 is one of my absolute favorites. I am going to turn it into a sticker, I swear. It's very, very cute. I think he's adorable. I might do like a series of stickers with him just because I really like how much it turned out. I really like how it turned out. And obviously this one is autumn themed, so I'm thinking of making one for each season. So like one for spring, one for summer, one for fall, obviously fall and winter as well. That way, you know, you can either buy one as per season, or you can buy a sticker pack with all of them, because I think that would be super neat. And he just turned out so adorable. I believe the prompts were fish and pumpkin, and obviously, like I mentioned in the video, at first I was kind of like, ew, until I took the fish to be more of like taiyaki, obviously. And this little guy just ended up the way that he was, I guess. I don't know how else to phrase it, but I think he turned out super adorable. This was the first one that I think I mainly used Poscas for, and there will be a couple where I will do that as well throughout the sketchbook. I say sketchbook because it's not much of a sketchbook, is it? But yeah, so I just really like how he turned out. I think the only like I don't know how to phrase it. The only thing I don't like about this illustration is in person, the breading, I guess, of the taiyaki and the ice cream are a little bit similar in tone. On camera, they're way, way different. You can tell that one is meant to be a light orange and one is meant to be like a sort of skin-ish tone color, like a pale or mid-tone. And again, the ice cream is orange, but in person, it's like this orange, this slightly yellow orange, so it doesn't really stand out too much. So if I were to render that digitally, which I will, I'll be touching these up digitally if and when I do make it into stickers. I'll definitely make sure to bring that tonal difference out a lot more. But yeah, overall, I really like how he turned out. I think he ended up super cute. So this next one is day 5, and the prompts were, I think, mushroom and sword, if I'm not mistaken. And I was super excited about this one. This one sent, I sent my prompt list to the Discord chat. And by the way, the prompts that I were using, I'm using 2 of them, and neither of them are the official Inktober prompt list, because, you know, like, controversial. But I was using Furry Little Peach's Peachtober for 2020, and I think it's Witchtober. I will link it in the description if I can find it, or it will be on my Instagram as well. But I used a combination of those 2 prompts. So when I sent them to the Discord chat, everybody was like, you should combine them, so I did. And they saw mushroom and sword, and they were all spouting off ideas like, what about a little rat with a sword? And just like all of this really cute stuff. And I ended up doing a character, because it's what I do. But I wanted to kind of do like a mushroom hat, sort of elfish, like fantasy character, kind of based on Emily Riboflavin on TikTok, we all know, like with the big red curly hair and the huge mushroom hat. She's adorable. I wanted to play on that and sort of make like a sort of knight character, obviously, of course, and landed on this little guy, and he caused me some trouble as well, because I initially had intended for him to have like sort of reddish brown hair, which you can kind of see peeking through, but the red literally did not stand out at all against both his skin and the hat. So I was like, I should have just gone with dark brown, but obviously I didn't, and you can't just go over it with like brown, because the tones were already brown, so it would have just got rid of all that shading. And so I was like, okay, I'll try to desaturate it a little bit with some gray, and it kind of works, but you can also kind of tell that I just went over it with gray, so that was kind of frustrating. And I had a similar issue with his shirt as well. I actually used this same ivory color underneath his hat, and I thought it was going to stand out really well, and it did not at all. So I went over it with this green color, and I think it looks really cool. It's kind of patchy, but I think that sort of is okay, because it kind of makes it look as if like it was like a natural fiber, maybe that was dyed green or something like that. I don't know. Or maybe like it was made out of like leaves. I don't know what the clothes making technique in this world is, okay? I just like how it turned out. It kind of reminds me of a leaf, you know, how they're like greeny, yellowy or whatever. And I just think it turned out super cool. I also really like the sword, particularly the hilt. It's kind of hard to tell, but it is a mushroom. It's just like sticking out of a mushroom, and I think he's super cute. So there's day 5. Day 6 was another hard one for me. The prompts were Halloween and wood, and I could not think of a way to combine these prompts for the life of me. I was like, what even is wood? Like, how do I, there's a lot of things that wood entails, obviously, but how do I then make wood Halloween? So that was really hard. And of course, as I always do when I'm struggling, I went to my husband. I was like, hey, I can't combine these, please help me. And so we started saying a ton of cool stuff like a cuckoo clock and all this, and eventually we came to this sort of like marionette puppet sort of thing, and I kind of realized that I draw marionettes every Inktober, and I have done every Inktober since 2017, I think. Not all of them have made it to Instagram that I know of, but I can recall all the way back to 2017, I have drawn one at least per Inktober, so that is what I did again. I made this little pumpkin creature sort of thing, well, creature, pumpkin puppet sort of thing, and I think he's super adorable. I'd initially intended to do this in Poscas until I realized that I didn't really have too many like desaturated colors, if that makes sense, because I wanted this, I couldn't decide if I wanted this to be black or olive green, and I made it olive green last minute. But then his pants as well, I have like a bright purple, but I wanted it to sort of be like a grayish purple, obviously, as you can see, and that wasn't going to work in Posca, so I decided to do watercolor because I was thinking about day 1, how I was able to get those super flat washes. I don't know how I did it, because I could not achieve it for this illustration anywhere other than, ironically, the bits that were wood, which meant that sort of like the clothing and the head sort of lended to like a really handmade, like almost like paper mache kind of thing, because they weren't as artificial as the wood. Well, artificial. They weren't as smooth as the wood, so they looked as if they could have been crafted, which was really, really cool to me. So I ended up really liking and embracing all the patchiness of the watercolor for day 6. This was day 7, and it was kind of a bit of a lazy one, I would say. The initial illustration, like the sketch, was not as lazy, but when it came to lining it and actually working on it, I was like, okay, this is just gonna be a chill portrait, and it was. The only thing I would say I don't really like about this illustration, because I like how stylistically it turned out, but the coloring of it was where it kind of goes down for me. So the dress was intended to be a really mint, like soft green, and obviously, as you can see, it came out pretty bright green, like almost like an emerald green, I would say. And then her skin, you can't really tell on camera. On camera it's actually pretty nice, but in person it's very, very, very pink. Like, I wanted a pink undertone, but this is straight up, it's pink. So that was kind of a struggle for me. I did like it when I had first created it, but then when I came back to it later, I was like, yeah, that's pink. There's no getting around that. I also love her hair. I'm obsessed with it. It's like the first time I've ever used these colors to create blonde. I believe it was like E21, but then I went way down to 93, 90, no, not 93, 95, 97 and 99, and made like this super like golden blonde color, and I really like how that turned out. I think it was beautiful. However, Apple as well definitely needed some more shading, and also I bled onto her finger, which isn't good, and then I just didn't really do any shading for both the worm on her face, on the worm, or in the apple either, so it was just kind of like rushed towards the end of it, which was kind of and then also she definitely needs a background or some accompanying element up here, but I did not do that because 1, time, and 2, it's hard. So definitely something I want to push myself to do more, perhaps for next Inktober. Day 8 I hate so much, and I don't really want to talk about it. I have to, however. So here is day 8. Initially, what were the prompts for this? I think it was like cozy and prize. And I was like, well, prize doesn't really ring as cozy to me. It makes me think of like awards and events and tournaments and like busy, all that sort of thing. So I was like, okay, what if I took it so that the idea of cozy was the prize and made it sort of like a self-care type thing, like a self-care day. And that ended up in what I did like was the sketch. I liked the sketch for this illustration. It was just, you know, one of those kind of aesthetic trays you see on Pinterest or Instagram with like books and little trinkets, just to like sort of decorate the space, but also tell you a little bit about the person. So I had like little pumpkins and glasses and tea or coffee or whatever drink you'd like it to be, and a little book about pumpkin spice because maybe they're a baker, I don't know. But I just wanted it to be really cozy, really autumn themed, of course, and like something you would want to come home to or sit down and relax with. However, when I got into coloring the illustration, watercolor, again, the bane of my existence. I could not get a flat wash of this at all whatsoever. I was using water brushes, so I don't know if that really helps or hinders. I don't know how to use regular brushes with watercolor because it is not my main medium, and ever since I started experimenting with it, I've used water brush pens, so I don't know if that was responsible for this, but essentially I either did not mix enough paint or used too much water, and it just kept turning out really patchy. So I was like, okay, we're gonna scrap it, we're gonna do it again, this time with watercolor pencils, which led to all of these elements turning out really nicely. And then I went on the background and I was like, it looks great. It's too light though. I wanted like a dark brown tray, like it was dark brown wood. I went over again, I was like, you know what, it's just gonna be a slight wash of brown on top. It's not gonna be bad, it's gonna be fine because the majority of it is already filled. Just gotta go over it again. It's like a second pass to make it a little bit darker. And then it ended up like this, and I was like, I'm not doing it again. So this is day 8. It was not good. It's definitely patchy. I am so sad because the sketch, again, is super cute, but I ruined it. So there's day 8. This next one is day 9, and this is another one that I'm kind of about. You guys really liked it over on Instagram. However, the idea of both. With her tattoos. I do wish her dress was lighter. I was imagining like a sort of like goldish, like, I don't really know how to describe the specific shade, but like a sort of like light brown, like sort of like this almost, but with like a little more gold to it, and then a little bit more like goldish brown, I guess, if that makes sense, but like kind of like a bronze, but like a light bronze. This is so hard to describe, but it ended up coming out sort of like a yellow ochre color, which I don't hate, but I did want it to be a little bit lighter so that it would contrast more, but I didn't have the right colors, or I just didn't know how to, I guess, make the correct colors. I don't know. That was kind of hard, but I do like how her dress turned out. However, the animals are looking a little rough because of what I said before. It's just kind of hard for me to stylize them. I think the deer sort of turned out okay, but the wolf is definitely crying for help. He looks a little bit interesting. He's a very special kind of moon looking dude. But overall, I do like this illustration. It does have a background, which I am pleased with. I wish the characters stood out, I think, a little bit more against the background. I kind of tried to make it so that it looked like she was coming through an opening. Why did I say opening like that? An opening in the forest, as if like there's all these trees, so it's really dark back here, but I think it's just a little bit too dark. Maybe I should have made it like green or something, I don't know, but I would have liked them to stand out a little bit more. However, you guys know my status with backgrounds, so the fact that it has one at all makes me think like, hey, I'm proud of you. So there's this one. This next one was day 11, and it was cat and egg, and it definitely gave me a little bit of trouble. So, it was, like, I couldn't really figure out how to combine the two of them. All I could think about at first was this cat egg like yolk shape, and I was like, that is not enough for a whole illustration. Maybe like an accent, but that is not enough. And I also kind of thought, like, with egg is really like something that I like to use as an accent in a lot of my illustrations. If you guys go on my Etsy shop, you'll see that, like, if I have something that's like decora themed, it's gonna have some sort of egg in it. I also have like egg earrings and egg pins, and the reason that I'm plugging my shop so much right now is because everything is 50% off until the end of the year. 50% off because I am trying to make room for new products when it comes to 2021. I want to do a whole bunch of stuff. I'm hopefully going to be acquiring some tech to make sure that I can get more products faster and just nicer quality. Not that the things in the store are bad quality, but like the stickers aren't waterproof and I'd like for them to be. And then I made the few prints that I have, and now I have no ink, so I definitely would like to be able to make more prints. So definitely that's something that I'm going to be looking into come the new year, but obviously I need to get the older stuff out of the shop so that I can bring new stuff in, which means, again, everything's 50% off. So stickers are like $1.50, pins that were $8 are now $4, earrings that were $12 are now $6. So if you get on my Etsy shop, it'll be linked down in the description, but it's also etsy.com/shop/Simon8ESArts. I'll put it on screen hopefully if I remember. But yeah, everything is 50% off, so if you've ever wanted something from my shop, now is definitely the time to do so. I'm also trying to dispatch things literally practically as soon as they're ordered, so like 1 to 2 day dispatch if I can, which I most likely will, because everything is on sale except for the commissions, which are the things that usually take longer to dispatch. So pretty much as soon as you order it, it's going to be going out next day. So definitely go check out the shop if you're interested. Rant over, here's day 11 again. But yeah, I eventually settled on like this cat yolk character, which again, courtesy of my husband, because he's a genius. He's such a good artist. I love him so much. But he was like, why don't you like make a cat sort of like cracked open like egg yolk character? And I was like, yes, that sounds super adorable. And I wanted to do Poscas because I wanted it to be as vibrant and as like cartoony as possible. And of course that is how it turned out. It looks super smooth. Unlike some of the other Posca illustrations, this one was not patchy in the slightest. It didn't even like peel up the paper in any places, so it was just like, woo, this is so satisfying to look at. Like, it's like the camera is as true to life as it possibly can be. I think it's super adorable. Well, actually it's a little bit desaturated on camera. He's a little bit brighter, but it's so cute. I did add like a little bit of accents with colored pencil as well, just to sort of you know, push the shading a little bit, because I didn't want to have harsh shading. I wanted it to be very, very soft. So that's why I used colored pencil, but I think he looks super, super, super cute. So next we have day 12. And I think the prompts for this one were berry and foam. And so as soon as I heard that, I was like, well, it's gotta be some kind of drink. So I kind of was thinking about like Mayoko, again, obviously, fresh boba tea, people like that who do like just super aesthetic sort of food type illustrations. And so I tried to do something along those lines. I thought, okay, what's super aesthetic as far as a drink goes? Obviously bubble tea, boba tea, whatever you want to call it. And then I sort of wanted to play with the idea of like a gradient with Poscas. And I tried to do that by, you know, putting some of the Posca down and then blending it out with watercolor, which, as you guys can see, did not work very well, because you can see each section which I colored with Poscas and then tried to blend out. I do try this technique later on and it's way more successful, so if that's something that's crossed your mind, definitely try it, because it does work, just not in the way that I did it here. I also had a little bit of a fiasco because when I first drew the sketch, I totally forgot about the foam aspect and I was just focusing on the drink, and so I was like, oh god, foam. boba? Is it normal to put foam on boba? So I had to Google if like people put whipped cream on boba, and they do. So it's not like super weird. And then of course I wanted to input more of the berry aspect because just the pink was not enough for me. So I added some strawberries like sliced on top because again I wanted to enforce that berry idea. I do wish this could have been purple because when I think about berry as an American, I got that TikTok audio stuck in my head. I can't think now. This berry makes me think of wild berry, so like purplish color rather than like strawberry or something like that, which pushes like pink colors. But I didn't have the right, I guess, Poscas to make a sort of purple. I obviously have like this pastel purple here, but the dark purple was just way too dark and I wanted a like very subtle shift, so that was not going to work for me. So I did end up going with the pink, which I don't hate. I still think obviously strawberry does count as berry. I just wish I could have done purple. But yeah, there is day 12. And here is day 13. This was another one that was a bit of a struggle for me because of course it's in profile, and also just the perspective of like trying to get her sitting on the broom. I don't know why that's something I struggle with so much, but that was definitely kind of hard for me. The prompts I believe were broom and horn, and basically I got the idea to do like sort of like a road rage type thing, but she's in the sky, so it's more like sky rage. But it was essentially, the idea was to have her getting cut off on the road, but like she's honking her horn, except the honking is more magical. She's using magic to honk her horn so that she can keep her hands on that broom, because you should always have 10 and 2 when you're driving, so you should always have 10 and 2 when you're flying. Anyway, but yeah, so I decided to do like a little bit of glitter watercolor to push that magic aspect, and this illustration was done in watercolor as well because I kind of wanted mostly flat washes with some subtle, almost like cell shading, and obviously I didn't really get that because they turned, again, very patchy, but it was smooth in some places, like on the broom it was very smooth, her hair as well, her sock for some reason. So I don't know if that's just because I got the water to paint ratio correct on those, but like on her clothing and a little bit on her skin as well, it just came out sort of patchy. So it's one of those where it's like I love the idea, don't really like the execution of it. And this next one is that's 12, 13, so this is day 14. And the prompts for this one were rain and storm. And it was kind of like one of those where it's like too good to be true. Like it's rain and storm, so a rainstorm. But the problem is, how do I make that interesting and not just draw a rainstorm? Obviously I'm not gonna draw like a landscape illustration. That's not my thing. That's not how I roll. So how do I turn this into like a character of some sort? So I thought, okay, let's make Rainbow Spirit a girlfriend. So that is what I did. She's like meant to be a sort of juxtaposition to the rainbow type character, so she's very grayed out, but she also has elements that tie her to the Rainbow Spirit, like the clouds in her hair, and obviously the rain as well. You know, to like, this is meant to be like hair as well. It's not just like her hair's raining, you know what I mean? It is technically, but it's still her hair technically. So that's kind of how I tied the two of them together. And then I also tried to tie them in their posing as well. So the Rainbow Spirit is very open-armed. Not necessarily like I'm trying to make her more closed off and her more inviting, if that makes sense, but I'm just trying to like make their like, how do I explain this? The posing just opposite. So the Rainbow Spirit has her arms open wide, and then hers are more closer towards her heart. And then I tried to make the shapes a little bit sharper because the Rainbow Spirit is very smooth, like rounded. So I was like, okay, get like some really sharp things going on, kind of to almost tie in like the lightning aspect as well. And sort of, again, just be, because I'm saying that so much, like an opposite, I guess. But yeah, so just trying to make it, again, a little bit more opposite. One thing I will say that made me really sad about this illustration was the colors that I usually use to do like mid to dark skin tones. The main tone, like the base tone, was dying. And so I tried so hard to get as much ink as I possibly could out of it. However, it didn't really work, especially toward her chest. It started getting really patchy. I heavily contemplated, like literally stopping the video and going to Michael's and picking up another color because I wanted this to be perfect, but several reasons, you know, quarantine and money and the fact that if I left part of this dry and then went back and brought another marker back, that it would be, you know, you'd be able to see the streaks from the previous like colored part, so it would have bled over and just made for not really a good illustration. So I tried my best to cover it up and get as much ink as I possibly could and blend it, but I did miss out on a lot of like blending and shading that I would normally like to do with character illustrations, because again, I just did not have enough ink, so that made me sad. Her dress, however, was super fun. I had this super specific color in mind. I wanted like a gray, green, blue color, and every color that I used, it was like, oh, this is too blue, this is too gray, this is too green, nothing is right. So I went with a cool tone blue, and then I brought another bluish greenish gray on top that was a little bit too light and vibrant for what I wanted, and put it on top of that gray, and it made the perfect color. So I was really super excited about that. It is sort of patchy in some places, but I can look past that because it's like, that's the color I wanted. So there is day 14. So here is day 15, and the prompts for this one were Witch's Brew and core, I believe. So I was like, obviously I'm going to be illustrating some type of potion with something at its core, and I went with an eyeball because I always tend to draw like if I'm drawing spooky illustrations, I'll draw like some type of bottle with an eyeball in it. So that is what I did here, and this one was kind of interesting because I knew from the get-go again that I was going to be doing Boscas. However, I couldn't really think of what color scheme I wanted to do, so I took to my Procreate and I went over the sketch and did some coloring, and I did this color scheme. And if you're a patron, you know that this color scheme in the PSD is titled Ew, because I wasn't gonna do this one. I didn't like it. So what I did was a bit of a dummy, and I duplicated that file, or not file, that layer, and I shifted the hues as if that was going to be something that worked. So I shifted it until I liked it, and I was like, oh, I love these colors, I'm gonna do this one. And then it came to the day to color this one, and I was like, oh my god, I don't have these colors. Why did it take me until today to realize I don't have every color under the sun in Posca markers? This has navy blue and forest green and like desaturated dark purple. I don't have those colors. I have bright green, primary blue, and bright purple. That's not gonna happen. What were you thinking? So of course, I had to fall back on this red color scheme because I knew for a fact I had these colors. So once I did it, I was like, oh, I actually don't really hate this. I think it actually turned out really, really cute. I like how it turned out. I think I did a little bit too much of the glitter. I think I went a little bit ham on that because I was just having so much fun adding the little circles. But I really liked the effect of, like, I don't know if it really comes across, but the pink is meant to be because it's red liquid, so I didn't want to leave it white, so I wanted it to look as if like the red was sort of affecting the hue of the white, and the eye as well is meant to be blue, but obviously red and blue make purple, so obviously red, purple, like I said. But yeah, I tried to do some little effect like that, and again, I don't know if it came across, but I do like how it turned out. Again, just wish I went a little less ham with the glitter. This next one was supposed to be super simple because I'd hit a bit of an art block by this point. So this was day 16, I believe, and the prompts were bird or feather and stripes. So I was like, okay, what? How do I combine the two of these? So I just googled birds with stripes, and I found a woodpecker because for some reason I didn't know what a woodpecker looked like until that day. So which is stupid because I grew up with cartoons like Woody Woodpecker, but I guess his like color scheme just didn't like stick in my brain. So I was like, what, that's a woodpecker? neat. But basically, the color scheme of a woodpecker obviously is black, white, and red. And it reminded me, of course, again, of like e-girls on TikTok, because again, black, white, and red is number one, very classic spooky, but number two, very classic alt color scheme. So I just decided to draw like a super simple, like alternative girl. And I also did a 3-marker challenge as well, because I remember somebody in a previous video asked if I could do a 3-marker challenge for Inktober. So that is what I did. I used, I believe it was R21, R27, and N8, I think. And then just, you know, did this sort of simple coloring. I will say the pink kind of makes me a little bit salty, because her nose, it's really hard to tell on camera because it blended out so smoothly, but I'm going to try. Basically her nose blended out super smoothly with the colorless blender, so I was like, this is gonna work great for the rest of her face, and it didn't. As you can clearly tell, it definitely was a little bit more patchy everywhere else, so I definitely gave up on that. Just added it to a few more places to, of course, you know, insinuate shading, and then I tried to add a little bit more of these stripes in, because I figured with her hair looking like the feathers it would be enough, but it wasn't, so I added some stripes to the bottom of her shirt, which again didn't really read as stripes to me, so I added some stripes on her sleeves as well as on her nose, because the nose stripes are a classic alt thing and I think they're really cute. But yeah, here is day 16. So this is day 17, and it's one of my favorites from Inktober so far. I think it turned out exactly how I had it in my brain. There was a bit of a struggle as far as the water goes, because I did initially intend for it to be watercolor, but when I went over it with the watercolor, it was super desaturated, and obviously everything about this is brightly colored, so I was like, okay, let's try to go over it with Copic. So I brought like a bright blue back in, and I think that really saved it. I think it looks super cute. Everything just turned out exactly how I wanted it to, like pose wise, perspective wise, face wise, how the posca is laid down, just everything went according to plan, so I am very pleased with this one. It was another one of those that was intended to be very aesthetic sort of thing. Also, the prompts for this one were gardening and lily pad, so immediately, of course, I thought of like a water garden, which pretty much is just water and lily pads and maybe the occasional fish and flowers. So that is what I did. I am, of course, again obligated to let everybody know that the fish and the tadpoles in her clothes are fake, because my husband, he got really sad about them. He was like, oh, but they're like, they'd be suffering. So yeah, they're not real. They're like rubber, it's fine. Also, one thing I realized about this illustration was, in order for this to work the way that I had actually planned for obviously it to be see-through, she'd have to have literally no torso or skin here. So it kind of just looks as if this was like a painted on design. But it is intended to be like clear, so I guess she's a monster. She has no torso. She has arms, no torso, no organs whatsoever. We don't know how her head connects. We don't know. But yeah, that's how this one turned out. I still think it's cool regardless of the underlying monster aspect. So here is day 18, and the prompts for this one were something and fox. I don't remember the other prompt, but it basically reminded me of, maybe it was sweater. It was something in fox, and it reminded me of this sweater on Gaia that I don't know if it actually exists, because I cannot find it, even though I swore it was in my inventory. But it's basically like this sort of beige sweater with a fox head on the front, and I decided that that was too simple, and obviously it's not very transformative, because it'd be entirely based off of something that already exists. So instead I drew a, you know, kind of like cottagecore-ish character, and I stole the coloring from that shirt, but then rather than having just a fox on the front of it, I gave him an actual fox who does look, again, a little bit stupid, just a little bit, but I think not execution-wise, but idea-wise, it's kind of nice. He's like everybody's favorite little cottagecore boyfriend. I do think that the colors are a little bit too pale for me. They kind of all fit together, which it's not bad to have all warm tones in an illustration, but if they're all similar tone-wise as well, and value-wise of course, it definitely does not work as well as it should. Okay, so I'm pretty sure this is day 19, and this one was a bit of a struggle because by day 19 I was feeling very overwhelmed, and I decided rather than trying to individually write down all of the prompts and then come up with ideas, I would just mass write them all down so they'd be ready and I wouldn't have to keep going back and forth to the prompt list. Further down in the list, one of the prompts was glow. And so when I was working on this one, which was foraging and cool, I sort of got a little bit mixed up and couldn't stop thinking about glow. So I thought that the prompts were foraging and glow. And so I had like this idea for a little mushroom patch with like some weird like regular mushrooms, but then like a weird little glowing mushroom in the center that kind of stood out from the rest. I was kind of thinking about silent shrooms from Breath of the Wild. Until I sort of realized like, hey, the prompt is not glow, it's cool. And I also couldn't get the perspective right on that, so I had just a girl sort of like implied to be picking mushrooms with this little basket and like a cloak on, like she's going through the forest, and then having her find like a mushroom. Ow! Oh, I just choked on something. Wow, fun. But yeah, I had her picking a mushroom that of course was meant to be cool. So how do I illustrate cool? I decided to use that both color wise and temperature wise by using like very blue tones, but also making it look sort of like everywhere her hand has come into contact, or like her body has come into contact with this mushroom or mushrooms nearby, is sort of you know, becoming ice, if that makes sense. So I used some blue glittery watercolor to imply that one, it's magic, but two, it's shiny, it's ice. And I think it turned out really cool. She didn't have legs at first. It was sort of like capped off like right here, and I didn't really like it. So when I added the legs, I thought it added a lot to the illustration somehow. I think it looked a lot more complete that way. And she just looks really, really cool. I like how her color scheme came out. And again, this was one of the ones where all of the colors was turning out really smooth. So I really like how she turned out. So there is day 19. So here is day 20, and the prompts for this one were spell and pie, and I'm gonna try to get through these next 10 quick because I think it's already been like 30-ish minutes, so sorry. But anyway, so here's day 20, so it was spell and pie. And spell, to me, I couldn't really think too much of. I was just thinking like pie, magic, or was it magic and pie? I think it was spell and pie, and I just sort of broke down spell and was like, okay, spell, magic, supernatural. You know what's supernatural? Ghosts. You know what else is supernatural? Pie. So yeah, I decided to do like sort of like a ghost was rising up to create, or like not create, but be reminiscent of like steam coming out of a hot pie. And this is where I tried that Posca and watercolor technique, and it worked much better here, although I do wish I brought this darker color up just a smidge more towards the middle of the illustration, but I really like how it turned out. It was much smoother than with the berry, and I just thought it was really cute, really simple. Something I might turn into a sticker, not 100% sure, but I do think it was a cute design. So here is day 21, and the prompts were shadow and bone, and I could not get the idea of skull animals out of my head, so I drew this one that's called Chunky. His name is Chunky. He's a big bear, and he's adorable. But I could not draw Chunky for Inktober because it's not transformative. It is when you think about the prompts, but it's I didn't make Chunky, you know what I mean? So I had to make it more my own. So I decided to make like almost this Reaper type character, and I had this idea of like a full body. I had like the scythe and everything, but I was tired. Inktober was almost over at this point. I had so many illustrations that I had already done. So I was like, okay, regular portrait, just make her cute, it's fine, it's fine. And this was meant to be a sort of simple color scheme again as well. I started drawing her skin red because it just like red is scary to me, you know, like a bright red, like almost like you think about like demons and stuff like that. But then I was like, wait, dummy, you wanted to do the cloak red. And I was like, oh, I did want to do the cloak red. So I had to quickly go over it with a gray to sort of try to cover that up, because I also wanted to make her eyes and lips red as well. And you can't do that if her skin is also red. So I definitely tried to push that back and make it a little more desaturated so that it was gray, which I think kind of helped a little bit, because it did shift the tones from her dress and stuff like that as well, with that little red undertone. So I think that was kind of like a blessing in disguise, if that makes sense. And then I just sort of went super simple for everything else, like barely any shading on all of the clothing and her face, and then I just sort of did grays for her hair and a little fun texture on the cloak, and that's how she turned out. I think she's very simple, but I still really like her. So this one is day 22, and we will not talk about this one for very long because I do not like it. So the prompts for this one, was this one rain? I don't remember what the prompts for this one even were. I think it was something and hours. It probably wasn't either of those. I don't know what the prompts for this one were, but I got somehow the idea to do like a sort of rainwater being collected on like the ledge of something, which do not collect rainwater until you see if it's legal in your state or wherever you live, because for some reason it's illegal in some states. So if it's illegal in yours, don't snitch. But basically I decided to, I was thinking of kind of like apartment ledges, how they're like bricks and then there's like concrete on top, but for some reason I decided to draw it in perspective, because why not? But then I didn't draw the mason jar in perspective, so this mason jar would have to be some kind of messed up shape in order to sit properly on this. And then the background, super lazy, just like kind of threw some rain and some clouds in there, and the sky's white, even though it wouldn't be if it was raining. It never would be, regardless of whether it's raining or not. So yeah, it just definitely didn't turn out how I wanted it to. So there is day 22. I think this is day 23, and this one was really fun and also not fun. It's kind of like day 1 in that the colors that I used I did not like, and then I sort of came back to it later and was like, okay, I don't hate it. It's not my favorite. Unlike day 1, I really like how day 1 looked. This one's still not my favorite, but it's also not as bad as I remembered it being. I wish I had gotten to do, I think, a little bit more of the neon aspect. I just sort of did it over here, and like with some of the colors, they're very bright, but it wasn't as neon as I intended it to be. I don't remember what the prompts were for this one either. I just remember, I think one of the prompts for this was herbs and the other one was something else. So yeah, I just kind of got the idea to draw an apothecary, and I wanted to use bright colors. I think it must have had something to do with the other prompt, but I don't remember what it was. But yeah, this is how this one turned out. So here's day 24, and this was another one that was too good to be true because the prompts were lantern and burn. And I didn't want to just draw a lantern because obviously lantern and burn are so connected that I could have just drawn a lantern if I wanted to, because lanterns are burning to make light. But yeah, I decided to try to figure out how I could also separate them, so I made like a burning sort of character that was also kind of like a lantern spirit. So she has all of these little lanterns around her. I don't know if they're like familiars in a sense, or if they're like pieces of her, I guess. I don't know. But I tried to do a little something like that, and this was really fun. I think all the blending turned out really nicely in both her hair and in her clothing. Every time I look at this one, my eyes are drawn straight to this because it's just so smooth. I really like how it turned out. It like almost looks like I airbrushed it in like Procreate or something, so I'm really pleased with this one. And I just think she's adorable. So this next one makes me a little bit upset. I might go back to it digitally because I really liked the idea for this one. So the prompts were fire and carton, and I was like, how the heck do I combine fire and carton? There's nothing that brings them together. I knew with carton that I was going to be doing some sort of aesthetic carton illustration, obviously, but I was like, how do I make that fire? So I thought the idea of like spells in cartons were really cool, even though, of course, you know, like spells are magic, you have them wherever, you don't necessarily need to carry them, but maybe it's like a non-magic user can purchase a use of a spell, I guess. I don't know. So I decided to look up some fire-related spells in D&D, and I came across Meteor Swarm, which I thought would make for a super cool design on this carton. So that is what I did. However, when I went in with the Poscas, it just turned out way flatter than I'd anticipated, and unlike with day 11, I didn't want to add any shading with colored pencils because I just didn't think it would look right. So yeah. I just figured it would be easier to kind of restart this one and give it the digital treatment, which is what I am going to do. I have not done it yet, but for now, here is day one of them. I forgot. Here's the next day though. The prompts for this one were snake and hat, and at first I did draw a snake and a hat, and I decided that I wasn't going to be going with that prompt because I didn't think that it would fit together necessarily, or not fit together. I didn't think I was going to be able to execute it well because I did it in profile, and that just was not looking very cutesy to me. So I went on and decided, okay, a snake as a hat, and I thought of like those headpieces that wrap around, like, of course, your head, that are like gold and look like snakes. And I was like, you know who likes snakes? Crowley, because I was trying to also draw a snake inspired character, and the first one I drew looked too much like Orochimaru, which is not something that I'm ever going to do because I hate Orochimaru. So I was like, okay, step back, maybe loosen some of the snake aspects just the slightest bit, and it ended up looking like Crowley. So I was gonna draw some him in a Xerofail, and then the day before I decided that the drawing that I did not look good and was not something that I wanted to do, and it was also something super detailed. They were both in profile. It was like this whole thing, and it just wasn't looking good, and I knew it would be a lot of work. So last minute I was like, okay, what does the snake look like from the front? How do I make it cute? Here he is. So I put a little witch hat on him, and just tried to go with like some little cutesy pastel colors. He looks pretty nice on camera, but in person he's very patchy, and I don't really like him. I think he himself is cute, but the execution of it, like, it's so textured. This paper is horribly textured. Like, it's literally, you can see pieces coming off right now. I don't know if you can see them on camera, but he do be peeling, so it's kind of like he's shedding. But yeah, here is our little snake hat baby. So this next one is probably my least favorite in all of the illustrations. The prompts were Celestial and Orchard, and I did not like it. I didn't want to draw a whole orchard because, again, backgrounds, not my strong suit. Do not like to do them. So I was like, how can I sort of like get the idea of an orchard? Apples are orchards, sort of, apple orchards. So I was like, I'll draw her apple picking, and it's too simple, especially with her dress being white and, you know, no background and barely any shading, and like there's two apples. How apple picking are we? You know what I mean? So everything about it just was kind of like meh to me, and I didn't really like how it turned out. Although a lot of y'all really liked her for some reason, so thank you guys for being so nice to me about it, because I was worried that this was gonna be like the least favorite. But yeah, a lot of you did end up liking this. However, speaking of liking things, this is my favorite illustration in the history of probably every illustration I've ever made ever. That's kind of dramatic. I don't really remember every drawing I've ever made, but every time I look at this, it like fills me with serotonin. I'm like so incredibly pleased with how this turned out. So the prompts were Firefly and Bloom, and I could not think of any ideas at first. It was very hard. Oh, one of the prompts was Fruit and Bugs. What prompt was that? Wait, hold on. Wait a minute. That was way earlier. Fruit and Bugs. I'm sorry that I'm just like coming up with this because we've gone through all of those and I didn't mention Fruit and Bugs. I don't know. Maybe I lied to you guys about one of the prompts. I can't can't tell you which one. Anyways, so this was Firefly and Bloom, and the reason that I remembered the fruit and bugs prompt was because I kind of thought of similar ideas for both of those. So fruit and bugs, I thought of like a peach-shaped ladybug sort of thing. Oh, that was day 7. I didn't even mention the prompt. It was fruit and bugs. You're welcome. So, but yeah, I thought of like a peach-shaped ladybug, and then similarly for Firefly and Bloom, I thought of a firefly, but the light was like a flower that was blooming, and I didn't like that, obviously. So I decided to go with this and just leave the fireflies as sort of like a little bit of an accent piece, and then focus on the bloom. And I, of course, did a peony, because peonies are my favorite thing in the entire world. Well, not my favorite thing in the entire world, but my favorite flower in the entire world, I think. Just because I like visually how they look, especially in like traditional tattoo work and stuff. You guys know I want to get a tattoo of a peony super bad, so that is what I drew. I decided to do a little peony, and I think what really makes this piece is just all of these small details. So the shading on her lips, the redness of her cheeks, the sort of liquidness of like the blood and her tear, and then just like how smooth her hair blended and how non-patchy her skin went down, and just every subtle little thing about it is something that makes me go, oh my god, I love this. I love it so much. And it looks super good on camera. So yeah, I'm obsessed with her. I think she's super cute. So there is day, I believe this is 28. So here's 29, and she's something. Initially I wanted her hair to be, of course, like I said, dark brown, and it is dark brown, but not necessarily the color that I wanted. I tried to use E17, and E17 is a very like nice reddish brown sort of shade, but it's also very like subtle, and so trying to find a color to shade with that is horrendous. E18 darkens it pretty well, but E15 is not a good highlight for it, and neither is 13, which is what I ended up going with, but I didn't have a choice. 13 yellows it out so much, which is really sad to me. I don't think it's ugly, but it definitely shifted the hue, which was upsetting. And then, yeah, I just tried to do like a bunch of sort of darkish reddish purple aspects, because those are some of my favorite colors to use for autumn and like fall. And I just sort of put those everywhere. Her shirt was initially brown, and then I went over it again with a purplish color, which I kind of like. I do think it sort of makes it stand out a little bit more, because when it was brown it was just way too subtle and I didn't really like it, and it also just made a really interesting color, so I do like this one. The prompts for this one I think were magic and fossil, so I of course was like, okay, magic, which character, fossil, amber, make a necklace for like a modern witch character. So that's what I did, and I think she turned out super cute, but she is a little bit plain and a little bit too ready in my opinion, because there's just so much going on there. I probably should have added, like, maybe made her hat a little bit darker, like sort of like a gray purple color. I'm not sure, but I do really like how she turned out regardless. This next one is day 30, and the prompts were butterfly and balloon. It was a little bit aggravating at first because I, again, of course, could not figure out how to combine the two of them. I figured they were like super far apart, but I did constantly think of like a clear balloon with butterflies in it. And one of my friends actually did reinforce that idea, but somebody else also suggested butterfly makeup, like from TikTok, and it's kind of like a push away from makeup at this point, because you can see that it's going past her face as if it's some sort of prosthetic. But I did try to make like the makeup like on her cheeks and her lips and stuff orange as well, to sort of tie in that butterfly aspect. And I had a bit of like a fiasco when it comes to like coloring her hair, because I couldn't decide if I wanted it to be blue or black. And same with her lips. I didn't know if I wanted them to be orange or blue or black or something like that. So I put some color schemes into my Discord server, and everybody decided on the blue hair with the orange lips. So that is what we did. I do think she's very simple, and there were some things I wanted to change about it. Like, I don't know why I decided to make her eye butterflies more stylized than the one in the balloon, but I still like how it turned out regardless. I do really like how the coloring turned out on the butterfly. I think it's like very like natural. I think it just looks really pretty, and I do like the colors that I used as well because I've never used this blue before, and it's very bright and very cute, so I do want to use that more in the future. And here's the last one, and it makes me kind of sad, like I said in the previous video, because I wanted it to be so amazing, but it just ended out being a hot mess. So the prompts were witch and moon, which is almost, again, too good to be true. Those things are so connected. And I wanted it to be really cute, like a witch sort of pinup girl. And I tried, but it didn't turn out the best. It's definitely pretty messy, pretty like not colored well, and I think I was just exhausted at this point, so I was like, you know what, it's not my favorite, it's not what I wanted, but if I finish this, Inktober is over. And so that is what I did. But yeah, here are all of the... Okay, so just jumping in with a quick voiceover here at the end because I rambled way too much in this video and it is already long enough, but basically I just wanted to say thank you for watching this video. Of course, as always, I hope you guys liked this sketchbook tour. I am sorry it was so incredibly ridiculously long. I know I said I was gonna try to keep it short, but it's literally over an hour. So yeah, that definitely happened. Very sorry about that, but like I said, hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you liked about it. Also, feel free to let me know the kinds of videos you guys would like to see in the new year, because that is coming up, and obviously I am technically on somewhat of a hiatus at the moment. Everything that's for November and potentially December is already pre-filmed, so I definitely won't be getting to any of your guys' ideas until January, but that's definitely something that I am looking forward to. Also, I do want to give a quick shout out to my patrons, Elise Thompson, Duran, Mandy, Schleeps, Puppy Paws, and our new patron, Created by Twins. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for continuing to support me every single month. There's going to be a ton of cool stuff coming to Patreon in the new year, so I hope you guys are excited. I probably will be introducing like a sort of happy mail tier in like the sort of $20 area, like where I have my Bloom tier, and that's going to include like a postcard, a sticker, potentially a small print. I'll have to see. I'm still working out some of the logistics for that, but that is definitely something that I am hopefully going to be doing, and I'm very, very excited about it. So if that's something you guys want to see, maybe check out the Patreon. It will be linked down in the description. As always, I love you guys so much, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.